How many of you are married or would like to get married someday? How many of you have or would like to have children? If you answered yes to either of these questions, then I would like you to think about this. How would you feel if suddenly the law told you that you could no longer do these things because of your sexuality? You would probably all feel a multitude of things: upset, angry, betrayed, and a number of other emotions. Well, unfortunately, there are some people in this world who do not have these things because they are told by the law that they cannot have them. Gays should be equally allowed to get married and adopt children because they deserve the same rights as heterosexuals. Some people think that gays and lesbians should not have the same rights as straight people just because of their sexuality. They are also being discriminated against because they are homosexual and therefore denied benefits and rights that could be just as useful to them as heterosexuals. Our country is supposed to be about freedom and treating everyone as equals, but yet we are still discriminating against a certain group of individuals just because they happen to be attracted to the same sex. Today I will talk to you about why gays should have an equal right to marry and adopt children, how you can support the legalization of gay marriage and allow gays to adopt children, and the last thing I will talk to you about is whom this will benefit. First, I will talk to you about why gays should have an equal right to marry and adopt children. Let's start with marriage. The first reason gays should be allowed to marry is to receive the same legal benefits as heterosexuals. In an article titled, "Why Gay and Lesbian Couples Pay More," Camelia Taylor states, there are roughly 1,100 benefits, rights, and protections conferred on married couples on the federal level, and hundreds more benefits, rights, and protections that married couples receive under state law. Among these is the right to joint parenting, joint adoption, status as next of kin for hospital visits and medical decisions, and inheritance of jointly owned real estate. Camelia Taylor also states a very good example of this. She says, straight married couples have the right to make medical and financial decisions on one another's behalf. But for a gay or lesbian couple, if someone is hospitalized, his or her partner is powerless. To be allowed to even visit that spouse would require a healthcare proxy. This is unfair for homosexuals, because we are not treating them equally to heterosexuals. If your partner of 25 years is laying in a hospital bed, since you're not considered next of kin, you have to wait for what is considered next of kin, which is either their siblings or their parents. So you have no say in your partner's medical decisions, which isn't fair if a heterosexual does have a say. Another reason that gays should be allowed to be married is because if this were really about protecting marriage, then the government would be making divorce illegal for heterosexuals. Two people who love each other should be allowed to get married, no matter what their sexual orientation is. A good example of this I would like you all to think about is this. Why can people like Kim Kardashian and other celebrities be on their third or fourth engagement, but it's not okay for a homosexual to get married once? Getting married is one of the biggest steps in a relationship. Gays should be allowed to enjoy a wedding ceremony just like heterosexuals do. Now let's talk about adoption. The first reason gays should be allowed to adopt children is because sexuality has nothing to do with how suitable a person is to have a child and raise a family. In an article titled "Same-Sex Parenting is Beneficial," Abby Goldberg states, gay parents tend to be more motivated, more committed than heterosexual parents on average because they chose to be parents. Gays and lesbians rarely become parents by accident, compared with an almost 50% accidental pregnancy rate among heterosexuals. That translates to greater commitment on average and more involvement. Being able to parent a child has nothing to do with what sex they are attracted to. It has to do with whether or not they can provide a stable, loving home for that child. Why should innocent children be denied the right to a family just because the adults surrounding them think it's wrong for gays to be parents? Children don't understand at such a young age what the difference between gay and straight really is. All children need is a loving family who is willing and capable to take care of them. Another reason gays should be allowed to adopt is because children with gay parents grow up and do just as well as children with straight parents. The same article states, And while research indicates that kids of gay parents show few differences in achievement, mental health, social functioning, and other measures, these kids may have the advantage of open-mindedness, tolerance, and role models for equitable relationships among some research. This just proves that gays do not raise their children any differently than straight people do. They keep their kids healthy, they teach them manners, they show them right from wrong, just like heterosexuals. Their kids don't grow up any differently because they're being raised the same. Some people think children with gay parents will grow up to be gay also. This is false. An article titled "Gay Parents" states, findings indicate, however, that the majority of children raised by gay men grow up to identify themselves as heterosexual. Whether or not a child's parent is gay has no effect on if they turn out gay themselves. A person is born gay. They don't become it just because their parent is. A good example of why gays should be allowed to marry and adopt children is a young man named Zach Walls. Zach Walls lives in Iowa. At the time when he made this speech, he was 19. He's a heterosexual male who was raised by 2 women. At the time, in 2011, I believe, Iowa passed a bill that said that homosexuals could get married. So that's what his parents did. They got married. Well, shortly after, they proposed another bill banning the same-sex marriage, which I'm sure, as you can probably realize, he was not too thrilled about this, considering his parents had just gotten married because they passed the law before that. So he wrote a speech and he stood up in front of the state representatives of Iowa, and in this speech he named some very important things that stuck out to me as to why gays should be allowed to get married, but also how he was raised. The one thing that stuck out when he was fighting for same-sex marriage was that he said, if you pass this bill to ban same-sex marriage, you are telling citizens in Iowa that they are second-class citizens to heterosexuals. He also described how he was raised and said that he was raised no differently than friends and people he knows with heterosexual parents. He said he went to church with his family, they took vacations, but they had their rough times too, just like everybody else. And he's a very good example to show that gays should be allowed to get married and adopt children. Now I will talk to you about how you can support the legalization of gay marriage and allow gays to adopt children. The first way you can support it is by voting for same-sex marriage. By voting for same-sex marriage, you will have the satisfaction of knowing that you are one person trying to take one step closer to ensure the equal rights and happiness of another individual. The second way is supporting gays in their quest to have and adopt children. By supporting gays and adopting children, you have the satisfaction of knowing that kids who need a home will be raised in a good, loving family. An article titled "Same-Sex Parenting is Beneficial" states, research suggests that gay and lesbian parents are actually a powerful resource for kids in need of adoption. According to a 2007 report by the Williams Institute and Urban Institute, 65,000 kids were living with adoptive gay parents between 2000 and 2002, with another 14,000 in foster homes headed by gays and lesbians. This just shows that these children need homes, that people won't take them in. Gays and lesbians want children because they can't always have them, so it proves that they're a very good resource for these children who need homes and families. Lastly, I will talk to you about whom this will benefit. The first group that this will benefit is the homosexual couples. This will benefit the couples because if there are enough votes in favor of same-sex marriage, they will receive the same benefits as heterosexuals. There won't be any question as if everyone's equal or not because they'll get the same legal benefits, the same health benefits. They'll be able to be considered next of kin, and that's really important that we're all equal because that's what our country is about. This will also ensure the couple's happiness, which I'm sure everyone here agrees that nothing's more important than being happy. The second group that this will benefit is the children who need families. Unfortunately, there are orphaned and neglected children all over the world that many heterosexual couples and families do not want or cannot afford. By allowing gay couples who want children to adopt these children, it will give the children the opportunity to be in a loving, caring family. In conclusion, gays should equally be allowed to get married and adopt children. And the more supporters they get, the more we can help make this a reality. It is not enough to say that gays are equal in some states. They need to be equal in all of them. If we could all vote to legalize these rights for homosexuals, it would make a huge difference in their lives. After all, sexuality doesn't determine who can marry and who can have a family. Love does. And by voting in favor of gay marriage, that is what you are supporting.